Good evening, everyone. You know what, Tyrone? I just thought about how you all used to get on me when I used to say, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So I'm bringing it back for 2022. 3 welcome backs, family. Thank you all for joining us today on another edition of the Parent Power Podcast brought to you by TDP. We are joined by school counselors. Shall I say, indeed I shall, that they are unsung heroes. In our daily academic walk and talk, we don't think about them maybe as often as we should. They don't get the credit that they should. Today, we're going to talk and hear about their experiences, their knowledge, and their expertise. So we're so happy to have Miss Mia and Miss Marian here with us this evening. And of course, the face of the franchise. I even think he has a week's worth of glow since we last saw him last Monday. So happy to have you back with us again, brother. Tyrone is in the house, everybody. So, family, we're going to ask a connection question right before we get started, as normal. And we want to know, I personally want to know, Tyrone, this is a totally selfish question. I'm just curious. I have my own reasons why, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. And the question is to all of you out there, including our illustrious guests, will there be another large snowfall or snow event in Maryland this year? Will there be another large snowfall or snow event in Maryland this year? I'm going to go first before our guests, and we'll let Tyrone bring up the rear as he's letting everybody in the door. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say at some point between now, let me see, and March, doesn't leave us much time, there will be probably another at least 5-inch event. So that is my guess. Let's hear what our guests say. Miss Mia, we'll start with you, and then Miss Marian, we will come to you.
All right, so I'm going to say that we are due for a good snowstorm. It's been a long time since we had a nice shut it all down situation. So I feel like it's time. So I'm going with the yes. I'm with you.
Miss Marian, what say you?
Yes, I gotta agree with Mia. I think something's coming up soon. Probably, I would say February, March. And being from Michigan, I'm looking forward to the snow. So,
all right, let's see, brother Tyrone, what say you?
Hello and welcome everyone. First of all, okay, I was going to say yes, but then all of y'all said yes. So now I feel like I need to say no. No, jack aboard. But the reality is the way that the weather has been, fluctuate. When we look at previous years when we've had large snowstorms like that, and we kind of go back to like Christmas in those days, and some days after we even seen 60 degrees in January, right? Like, which is not unlikely, but when we see that, February brings us a frigid cold month, and we normally do get a very large snow, just kind of looking over the past. So I would definitely have to say yes. And someone said it, I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, but I was letting folks in and everything. I think we are due a big shut-in snow too, right? Like where we are where we are stuck in the house, and not like this little stuff that we've been getting, where we're done. So I'm really looking forward to it. It want it to happen.
Absolutely, thank you. And our guest Marian, she stole my thunder. I was gonna say, sounds like Tyrone has been writing in the Farmer's Almanac there. You weathering month to month. That's wonderful. Miss Mia, I heard you say that you're an educator. I was an educator as well for quite a while. And I always say the snowfall, the snow event, the possible school closing is the one thing that students and teachers have always agreed on from time immemorial. That is the one thing that we both have in common. We used to tell the kids, that's right, run around the bedroom 7 times with your PJs backwards and do flips on your bed.
No, and ice in the toilet, ice cubes in the toilet. Mm-hmm.
Didn't know about that. How about Miss Marian? What about from Michigan? Any bring the snow rituals there?
Y'all know it snows way too much in Michigan, so we didn't have to do any rituals. It just came.
Agree. Very true. Well, thank you all for participating. And we are looking forward to your answers, dear family, about your prognostication. We had the Farmer's Almanac editor himself, along with our guests, speak on the fact that they think we are still due another event. To a serious topic, you know, we constantly, Tyrone, on this program talk about people who are on the front line when it comes to our young people, when it comes to our educational system, and the backbone of the things that we hold dear when we send our children and our students to school. And one of the names that probably never gets mentioned is in fact school counselors. Ms. Marian, I'd like to start with you. Please introduce yourself and then tell everyone exactly what does a school counselor do?
Awesome. So my name is Marian Hoyt. I use pronouns she, her, and I serve as a high school counselor in Baltimore City. And I also serve as the high school vice president for the Maryland School Counselor Association. So thank you so much for giving us this platform to speak. And, you know, as you said, you know, school counselors do so much within schools, but oftentimes we're kind of, you know, put in the side. We don't, you know, don't always get that ability to share our story and share the good things we do with students. So specifically within school counseling, you know, we kind of do it all. You know, I always like to say we are, you know, the only trained professionals within the building to handle social, emotional, mental health, academic, and college and career development and concerns, right? We kind of do it all on a basic as well as sometimes in-depth level, depending on your training. You know, really helping a student deal with things at home, friends, social emotional needs. You know, maybe you're trying to get into that college or trade school, you know, whatever it might be, a school counselor is probably the person that's helping you or your student with that.
Thank you so much, Miss Marian. Miss Mia, introduce yourself, please. A different question for you, which is, and it's interesting, it's an interesting question because I think a lot of people don't know the difference, at least in duties and responsibilities. Title is one thing, but the difference between a school counselor, a school psychologist, and a social worker, and oftentimes they work hand in hand.
I love this question. So I have Miss Mia there because that's what the kids call me. When I was a teacher, I was Miss Beauttah, and so it was important to like make a distinction between the two. So you do not have to keep calling me Miss Mia. It's just there because it's what. But if you know, if it works for you, it works for me. And so I'm a pre-K through 8 school counselor, which means that I have a huge population that I serve. We have like just under 1,100 kids at the school that I work in. And my school is unique in that it is one school in 2 completely separate buildings, 2 blocks away from each other, with 2 sets of principals, 2 sets of staff. So it's kind of sort of like I work in 2 different schools, but it's all the same name. But still, I have to split my time between both places. So to answer your question, because I cannot tell you the number of times I've been called a social worker, or are you the new you know what I mean, whatever it is, you know, it's they don't quite remember, or right, Marian, the guidance counselor. Actually, I'm the school counselor. Thank you very much. So as Marian gave just a beautiful breakdown of what we do with college and career readiness, academic support, social emotional learning, school psychologists, they do a lot of the assessments. They're tasked with every single kid who is referred for an IEP, which is to support their educational learning. They have to do the assessments for those students. Social workers, a lot of time, I say they jump out into the community. So like they're the bridge between the community and the school. So if you have a student who has homeless issue, food insecurity, sometimes even like support with parents and job placement and that kind of thing, that's going to be a social worker. Also things like visits to the home, like sometimes we do visits, we check on attendance. And so I'll go with the social worker on those visits because it'll be a child that both of us has worked with. And then lastly, social workers also get their caseload is populated by students who have 504s and IEPs. So they have specific students that they're supposed to work with. We have the flexibility of anybody who hits our door, we can have a chat with them and figure out how we can support them. So those are some differences between, but I also want to add that we do collaborate because a lot of times, like I work in a pre-K 8, I'm the unicorn, which means I'm the only school counselor in my building. I only have the social worker. One is at middle school, one is at elementary. So they're great people to consult and collaborate with to get the best support for all of the students in the community.
Thank you so much, Mia. I'm taking off that miss. Thank you so much, Mia. Tyrone, unless there's anything from the audience, questions or comments so far, I'm gonna roll right on.
Yeah.
Already. What is going on tonight, Tyrone?
Already, I know numbers are actually jumping and everything, so that's good. You all continue to share the live though, as you're watching, and definitely comment your thoughts and any questions for us. But we do have one to already start off, and it is, what if any specific or critical problems are coming up as students have to navigate through this pandemic?
We will go to Miss Marian.
Yeah. So I imagine that Mia and I can both, tag on this question and from different ends, because Mia works in, K-8, as she shared, and I'm specifically within a high school. But I think both of us are seeing attendance issues. That's something that is a challenge for students who are in quarantine, who are quite frankly scared of, catching COVID, within the school building, even with proper, health safety protocols and things like that. So again, just those attendance issues are huge, as well as, feeling that gap. We already know that there is a huge academic and achievement gap with our white and Black and brown kids, but especially now we're seeing that widen because, students are out of the building so much, and it's hard to catch up, especially when you haven't fully developed those self-advocacy skills, to say to your teacher, we think as adults, just go to your teacher and say, oh my gosh, like I missed a week. Can I make it up? It's a very simple question, but to a student who hasn't developed those skills just yet, that's scary, quite frankly, right? So I think not only the logistical, challenges of missing school, but also just the emotional challenges of now, how do I catch up to, let alone, of course, the plethora of issues that come with COVID, health and safety and everything like that,
Thank you so much. Mia, what are you seeing on your side?
A lot of the same things. And so to Marian's point about just asking for the help. So kids they do not know where to start. So I always use this example because it just makes me laugh, but there's like a little video and the dude comes in and he's like, Mom, are you approachable? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, well, since I'm 18, then I no longer want to do this, this, and this. And then the mother tells him all the stuff, but not that part, but just the mom, are you approachable? Right. I tell him, take that piece, right? Because you don't know if you coming in hot and they already feeling away, we're going to have a situation. So it's like, how do you teach children how to ask for what they need from an adult? A lot of times they've never had that practice. So like even teaching them when they come back, how do you ask for help in coach class? How do you, like Marian said, advocate for yourself? Just think about the fact that they were home on a screen like these and muted for almost the entire time. It's like they lost their voices. It's like, so we have to teach them how to have that voice again, how to communicate effectively, because also a big part of effective communication is your face and expressions that you're making. Like y'all are affirming what I'm saying. I can see your whole face, but think about 2 years of not seeing a face and just eyes. And some people's, expressions don't come up to their eyes. So you're trying to figure out what's going on with this person. Am I getting through? Do we now have beef? Because like you didn't, you know what I mean? It's like so much, and communication is like really, I'm like drilling in communicate. Like that's a huge thing that I think we lost.
Okay, so I'm not gonna take your thunder today, right? But the stuff is coming.
Just by the fact that you said that, I know that's exactly.
Yeah, because it's some stuff. Okay. You mentioned we've been hearing a lot about attendance around this time, so we have a couple of people that's wondering, what is it that you all do? Well, let me get the question. To address attendance.
So I can start. So we thought we were trying to figure out, and when I say we, I mean the Bella Edison School, about how to best keep our kids who are going to be quarantine connected. That was a lot of alliteration. I like that though. And so we decided to start doing this thing called the Q zone, which is quarantine zone. And so in the mornings at 9 a.m., I would be on Zoom, me and another of my coworkers, Ms. Henson, acting up with the kids who were home, like, how's everybody doing? You know, like, and they would be like kind of laying in the beds and saying hi or whatever, but we would still kind of have that same community online to keep that connection. And so what they started doing was calling their friends. It's like, hold on, let me text them to see if they know how to get in. So they were like bringing their friends to the Q zone while they were home. So because we wanted them to remind them, like, we miss y'all here. And when you're feeling better, we want you back here as soon as possible. So we just are always trying to hit it from the positive, encouraging side of it, not the punitive side of you're about to go to truancy court, because like nobody is going to receive that well. But if you know, like, when I come back, somebody is going to be like, oh my goodness, it's so good to see you. Or I can't wait till you come back. Come by my office so I can say hi to you in person. So that's something we're doing, just trying to encourage on that end and keep the community open, even if they're home.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask this one and then go right to you, William. And that is both of you. So I want to, like, it's a whole bit. So first, I want to definitely thank you all for what you're doing. But both of you serve a large population, and not assuming that you are not able to get your job done, but is there a recommended number of student to counselor ratio that you think would make it a lot better for students? Okay, I think I okay, bam. And I want to hear from both of y'all because, you know, one is high school and then one is elementary to middle.
Mm-hmm. I guess since I'm already off mute, I'll start. So the American School Counselor Association specifically does recommend a ratio of one school counselor to every 250 students. But I will say, I think it depends on the school population. It depends on the school area and so many different things. I'm fortunate to have a caseload of just over about 150, which sounds great and sounds like way under the 250 recommended. But I also work at an early college. So I'm supporting students who are working towards their high school diploma as well as an Associates of Arts degree, which means that's 2 different credit checks. That means that's 2 different, college high school college transcripts, and supporting students in a lot more of that college and career readiness work. Hopefully every high school has a really intensive college and career readiness program, but at the school that I work at, specifically Bard High School Early College, we have a course called CTO where every single student takes something that's going to prepare them for their post-secondary life. And that's an amazing opportunity, but it absolutely adds, extra work to our plates, which I love. That's my passion personally. But I think it really just depends on the school and the population and their needs as well.
So you heard me mention that I work in a pre-K through 8, and our population is about 1,100 kids, and it's just me. So, so on the elementary end, I will say that I specifically support pre-K and K this year, which is different. So there was an infusion of money, and they were able to kind of break up into communities. So there's SEL's social emotional learning support for 1st through 3rd grade with a team and 4th and 5th grade with a team. So primarily I do 1 day with pre-K and K, and I do 4 days at the middle school. So realistically, I feel like the middle school is my larger, of course, they're my larger population. That's where I spend most of my time. But there are also 7 classes of pre-K K kids. So it's like I try to hit every class when I'm there or interact with kids. But a lot of the stuff that I do, like I depend on getting an intern, which just lets us know that it's too much work for one person. Like if I'm always thinking about what I can do, but then also thinking I can get this done with my intern, then I know that having just me is not enough. But I try to get as many, work with as many students as I can. What I had to realize was I work more on a macro level with a lot of things. So it's like, so during the pandemic, I was I was making these videos. It was Miss Mia's morning message. And I was just, again, acting up. I would have music playing and I was just dancing and giving like a 1 to 2 minute, just like a thing. Just here's some inspiration while you're home. And that was something that hit the entire community. So it's like, while I can't go into every single class every single day, I can be in my house and make a video that we can put on our Facebook page at our school. I put on my Instagram, and you can kind of look at it and say, oh, Mia's doing something the kids can connect to. And then even outside of like the school community, like when I would be walking around Montebello, I would like, I've seen you on the thing. And I was like, you saw me on the Facebook? How sweet. So it's like, just like putting as much stuff out there that can hit as many people is how I try to just spread the school counselor love throughout the entire community.
Thank
Yeah. Before we move on from this, I just want to do a personal shout out to Mia, because like over 1,000 kids is a lot for anyone, but especially in an elementary, like you are doing classroom lessons all the time. Those little ones are on you all the time. Like you do not get left alone at all. So like that is huge to be supporting a school population of over 1,000. I think you said, Mia, right? You know, by yourself pretty much. And even with an extra hand, you know, with an intern, you know, and then I'm sure a supportive community. I mean, that's a lot. So I just want a personal shout out to you, Mia, for holding it down. You are an amazing counselor.
Yeah, I wanted to do that before I turned it over to William. Say that in both of you, but you know, definitely shout outs to that. I will also say you reminded me that the recommendation was 250 as a parent. And you know, advocate and talking to a bunch of other parents and you know, knowing things, I still think that number is high. Personally, 250 is high. Knowing that, and depending on the school, I would say that the community, because you know, there are certain kids at certain schools that have a lot more traumas and a lot more things going on, that if they had the, you know what I'm saying, the attention and the, you know what I'm saying, the stuff with you know, actually had more time to spend with the social worker or, you know, someone that actually, man, I'm gonna shut up. Go, William. Thank y'all for what y'all do so much. Thank you.
No, and you know, it's interesting, Tyrone, because I was gonna circle back anyway, because you know, you are both, you know, obviously caring professionals and you know your jobs, you know, like the back of your hand. Can you take us through a parent, for example? Can you just give a day in the life of what you do? Because I think they hear you support, you do this, you do that, without actually hearing what you all do. Because that's a big, for me, that's a big part of understanding your value. And I know that it doesn't dawn on you that you need to explain that, because that's not where your mind is. Your mind is on serving. But if you could allow folks just a snapshot of what it's like. Mia, we'll start with you and then Marian.
You know what? I'm glad that you asked me this, because I just got a new intern. Shout out to Aisha. And so she's like following me around with everything, and she like kind of notes the things that I do. And so now I'm paying attention to what I do. So I start my day always at entry. So if I'm at the elementary school, I'm at the front door. If I'm at the middle school, I'm on the blacktop. So I love being out there as the kids enter. Like that is your very first spot of connection. I look at them, I see who's by themselves, who's acting weird, who comes up to say something to me. Like that's like the first thing I do. Then I usually go, right now it's high school choice time. So it's up to the 8th grade floor to harass them all to give me high school choice applications. The window closed on Friday, and I'm like, still like, can I get those last couple of applications, y'all? So it's every 8th grade advisory. So it's four advisories that are split into 8 different spaces sometimes. So hitting every last one of them. Then usually there's a child who has already connected with me, and it's like, Miss Mia, I need to come down there. Okay, baby, come at 9. So if it's like crisis mode, we have advisory every single day at the middle school. So 8:15 to 9 a.m. Is advisory. So if it's like a crisis while I see him on the blacktop, meet me in my office, I'll be right there. And then we just get it going right there. If not, there's usually a kid or two who booked me at 9 and 9:30. Or there's a teacher who says, can we talk about something? And that's that time. I always use the earliest time possible, because when the day gets started, the things just start moving. So then I may or may not have like a 504 meeting because I'm the 504 chair, which is another thing that I do. So I might have a meeting on any given day, or a leadership meeting, an attendance meeting, the culture and climate meeting. Like I'm in the middle school, I'm on the leadership team, so I sit in and know a lot about the different committees and things. Then I do any follow-up stuff. So I go through my emails, I go through my Google Voice, because I have a Google Voice separate from my own phone number for obvious reasons. Right, exactly. So I go through the emails because sometimes I get emails all day and all night. And while I was actually sitting here, I was getting more messages from families about just some parents are doing private school, so they need support with that. So I star any emails that I get after hours because I do keep those boundaries very clear. So circling back, checking on that. By that time, usually some child has come into my office, or I'm getting texts from teachers saying, this one wants to see you, this one wants to see you, this one wants to see you. I also have standing lunch bunches for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade every day. So that time, that hour and a half is typically taken up with 2 to 4 kids in my office. Yes, with COVID. Yes, with an air purifier. So they're in there having lunch with me while I'm going through something with them. And by the end of the day, someone usually has had some type of crisis. So there's at least 1 to 2 children who have shed some tears in the office, sometimes adults as well. And so I'm sorting that out, making phone calls, making sure they're okay with that. Nowhere in there did you hear me say anything about food. I usually don't get lunch. I make myself a coffee. I try to make a coffee every morning. And then sometimes somebody will just leave a muffin or something on my desk, and I'll just get that at some point. But I typically don't. I'm serious. I don't even have time to eat. I know I drink kombucha. That's like a meal replacement. So sometimes I'll drink that during the day to just kind of keep myself full and fueled up. And so by then it's around 2:30, 2:40, and that's when the day is about to end and all the 8th graders come out the door right by my office. So then they come in to say goodbye. They come in to sit down. They come in to debrief. So then I do that. And at about 3, I leave. So that's a typical day for me.
But after 3, you still have emails and Google Voice checks. So thank you for going through that. I just wanted people to hear a glimpse. Marian.
Yeah, I kind of echo everything that Mia said. And I think, the thing that I love about this job is that, one, it's very person-centered. I mean, I am with a student probably like most minutes of my day, but, it really does change. I mean, every day is truly different. I, similar to Mia, try to start off my day by being outside, greeting students. I typically stand outside my office door just so that way we can kind of have a lot of adults throughout the building. Since our school social worker is the one who stands outside, but greeting students, seeing exactly kind of being observant, seeing who's, looking a little bit down, who looks a little bit different, who might be walking, alone, might be consulting with, a teacher or a parent or a caregiver, something like that. I could be in classroom lessons the next. I mean, it really just does depend. I mean, I had a day where I had literally everything a school counselor does. I did individual counseling on social emotional mental health, college and career. I was dealing with a student with a suicidal ideation. Then I went to a classroom lesson. Then I went to a 504 meeting. Then I went to, everything a school counselor does, I hit in one day. And it was the most exhausting, but most fulfilling day like I had probably this whole school year, just because like that's what we do. Like we love what we do. Like, a school counselor is there when they talk about their job and their role all the time because we love what we do. So it's wild though. It's a lot.
Thank you, Marian. And I'd like to follow up as Oxford High, right there in your neck of the woods with all of the trauma of the school shooting. These young people are returning into schools. And I wanted, again, folks at home to understand, what would that be like when a school is coming back, a massive school event, traumatic event? How do you approach that when so many may need you, your ear, your just your presence? Marian, I'd like to follow up since I did mention Michigan and Oxford High, and then Mia.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I feel like it's such a difficult time for our students and staff. I mean, caregivers, just really the whole community, because everyone's grieving, right? And in some way, shape, or form, right? You're grieving something, even if you didn't quite know, any of the victims. It's a hard thing to come back to, just not knowing, what you're returning back to, feeling, unsafe, most likely in your own school building, in your own school community. And so I like to really hone on the fact of collaboration, right? During something as traumatic as a school shooting, any sort of crisis, we don't operate in a vacuum, right? School counselors are going to rely heavily on their community partners, including grief counselors from outside in the community, right? You're probably going to see a lot of people coming into the school building, and also recognizing that school counselors are people too, right? They would have known that student and the students that were lost, teachers that were lost, right? And just really being prepared to deal with any anxiety, any trauma, any secondhand trauma or secondhand, grief or loss that was experienced, and really just trying to take every day, and every, minute, quite frankly, day by day.
I totally agree. So we've had a few of these instances happen. And what we typically do is like gather as a school community, like all of the adults first, just to check on everybody to see, how the wounded healers are doing. So, seeing who is ready to engage in the healing process with the students and who still needs a little more time for themselves. So that's like really the first thing, like who is ready to do this? Because like Marian said, like we're all human and it hits us all in different ways. So once we've identified who can do the work, then we start building out where's everyone going to be, who has these spots. So then, for instance, if something happens, like I have a post, my post is on the 8th grade floor. If something happens, I know where I'm supposed to be. So if there's a crisis or anything, you can find me there. So if a kid, our school is shaped like a T. So it's like you can stand in one spot and see down 2 hallways. So if a kid or an adult, like, you can peep your head out, we're right there. I'm sending someone to you. And it's just like that, because sometimes the students don't even realize that there is space to feel your authentic feelings. Like they've been so used to just the status quo. Oh, somebody else got shot. Oh man. And then rolling with it. And it's like, let's slow that down. Like, let's explore those feelings. Like, what's really going on? Do you know that it is okay not to be okay in this moment? Like, no one's asking you to be brave. No one's asking you to be anybody's provider. We just want to know how you're actually doing. A lot of times, like, oh, I'm all right. I'm like, but are you? Like, what does that mean? Like, really drilling down to it. So, like, letting them know, like, it's okay not to be okay. And when you're ready to talk, I'm here. Because a lot of times they just need to sit and be for a while. So, like, this is my home, but my office, if it's not pink, it's blue and green for the school. But it's very similar to this same vibe, like low lights. I have diffusers all of the time. I have music, like it's like a spa environment. So a lot of times kids come in and just like they have to just like, just like release the day or the moment or whatever before they can even go to the next thing. And so it's like, this is a safe space, like creating that safe space. So if you don't want to talk about it now, like know that I'm here a week from now, a month from now, like whenever it reminds you of the thing, then, I'll be here to talk through it with you and process however you need me to.
Thank you, Mia. Tyrone, I want to give our family an opportunity to question or comment with our school counselors.
Yeah, thank you. Do have one. First of all, we have a lot of great, back to Mia was giving an idea. It was great ideas. So sweet what y'all do. Awesome job, ladies. Thank you. Good question, William, to you. Great points, Dr. Mia. Great nuggets for Miss Mila. Those are just, it's a lot of that. So I just wanted to give a couple that, folks are definitely enjoying and feeling them. Then Nina just made a comment saying environment is so critical to mood and vulnerability for us all, which is true. And then we have a question here. So I know it's probably impossible to reflect on the pandemic since we are in it. But is there anything you find yourself saying to kids and adults to help people stay hopeful?
Marian, you want to start? I always got something to say.
Gosh, no, I'm just trying to think for myself. So no, please go ahead, Mia.
I got you. So like what I just said, like, listen, don't tempt me with a good time. So I always tell them, like I just said, like, it's okay not to be okay. And you don't have, there are no expectations on you in this moment. And so a lot of times, like we have a lot of, I call my adultified babies who have like so much on them when they go home. And I say, when you come in here, there are no expectations. Whatever you need is here for you. And I take them on a tour of all of the things that I have, to like coloring books. I have stress balls. I have little poppets. Like, come here and get this thing that you need. Like my mother always says, get what you need. And so I just send that right on to them. Get what you need. I have all kinds of things in here, and I have no expectations on you, but you just to be okay in this moment. So I say that all the time.
Gotcha. They said, go for it, Mia. We can't hear enough of you. We love you. Go for it. So they don't think you don't have too much to say. They love it. Natalie, one of our regulars who come through, say, I'm currently attending Loyola for school counseling and transitioning from an art teacher, and my room is one of our safe spaces for students to breathe. So thank you also, Natalie.
Natalie, I went to Loyola, so did Marian. So we Greyhounds. Go off, Miss Ma'am.
All right, William.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for those continued comments and all the wonderful praise that you're heaping on our school counselors here who don't hear it. And I'm just going to speak for them and say that they don't hear this positive praise and feedback enough. Not that they need it, they don't do it for that. They are service-minded folk who are trying to connect folks with the best resources, social, emotional, and other as possible. We unfortunately are going to have to cut the show soon. So Tyrone, we've got to have Mia and Miss Marian back. Saying that just to say maybe one or two more questions here, ladies, if you would. And one of the things that we want to ask is, what are things parents can do to better support students at home? That's one that I think really, I'm gonna let Mia sound like, I mean, I know she's on mute. It looks like she is ready. She already got the aces up her sleeve. Go ahead, Mia.
I did my homework for this one. This is one that I was talking, I told Marian, she's smiling because I was talking to my sister about this one and we were just kind of chopping it up. She's like, say that. I was like, so thank you, Nina. Appreciate you. All right, so here we go. As a middle school counselor, because like I said, I'm mostly in a middle school setting, a lot of times the kids want to talk to their parents about the thing that they're talking to me about, but they don't know how to start the conversation. And they feel like there's never going to be a good time. So I give them the mama, you're approachable, but I also, for on the parent side, create opportunities. Like just go be around them. Like I'm in my pink room, right? But my son can come in here and hook his Xbox up here. And sometimes he's killing whatever is on the screen. And I'm just sitting right here and I'm like watching him and I'm listening to him talk to his friends in headphones. First of all, because I want to hear who he's talking to. So I just kind of sit there, or, you just parallel play. It's something that little babies do, but you can practice it with your teenagers because they want to talk to you. Like when I pick my middles up, that's what I call them. I have two in middle and one in high. When I pick my middles up, I turn my music or my podcast down and I ask them, so tell me really two good things that happened today. Never open-ended questions, because if you say, how you doing? They're going to be like, fine. And then that's going to be the end of the conversation. So ask those probing questions. Like, what were two good things that happened today? And don't say lunch and dismissal, because they love to say that as well. It's like, nah, not those things, dig deeper. Like, what was a really good thing that happened in the class today? So come with a question. Also, when they say stuff that might be shocking, delayed judgment. Just be like, okay. Thank you for sharing that with me, baby. Or whatever your affirming language is for your child. Don't react, because that's what they're so concerned about. How are you going to react to the thing that I'm about to tell you? This may be personal thing. I'm going to disclose something. Maybe my grades aren't quite right. Even if you're not feeling great about things, just mellow it down, because this is their first time talking to you and you don't want to scare them away. So that's just some tips for how to engage with your children. So I'm so glad you asked that question, because I've been wanting to say that.
And thank you so much, Marian.
Yeah, no, I 100% echo. The lunch dismissal just cracked me up because that is totally something. But I will say for our caregivers, I think kind of echoing what Mia said, talking to them about non-academics thing, making that conversation truly a conversation, right? It shouldn't always be about academics. Like, this is something that actually happened today that I'm just so over the moon about. Like, I am working with one of my senior students, and he's come to me a lot about how, he doesn't really feel supported at home. He doesn't really feel that, the people in his home, really care about him, and things like that. And, just having him have my office as a place to kind of be and to talk about, he really wants to start a music career. So being able to talk about music and, kind of, okay, well, who are those social supports that you can lean on? And, just vibing with them about things that are not academics. I think it's okay to still have high expectations, have those high standards. It's important. I mean, they're in school. Clearly that's one of their roles, but they're also more than just a student, right? They're more than just their academics. And that's something that I always like to say, like, you are more than just your academics, and really being able to show them that, I think the proof really is in the pudding. Like that student, he had a straight F's, quite frankly, like the whole semester. And I checked on grades today. He passed every single one of his classes, right? And that, like, I almost like broke down, because that, that's a student who was potentially between June graduation and August, right? And, I think it really says something about being able to have that conversation with your student about things that don't make them feel judged, right? And I think the other thing is, really just collaborating with the school, right? Like, we are all on the same page. You caregivers know your child best, right? Like, I always like to say, caregivers know their child best, but we know them best at school, right? We know them best in the context of school. And so let's collaborate. Like, we are not trying to, jump down your throats. You're not trying to come for us. Like, if we can work in collaboration, that's what's going to best serve your child. And I think that's what our goal is, right? To be collaborators, not, in conflict. So really just trusting that the school has your child's best interest at heart. And if you feel like we aren't understanding where you're coming from, please, like, share that with us. We want to know, maybe we're just not understanding in the way that you're trying to express, but really just understanding that we're all on the same team for your child.
Thank you so much. Final thoughts, Mia. What kind of final thoughts might you have? 30 seconds or less.
All right, I'm on the clock. I get it. First of all, I just again want to thank you so much for the opportunity to just talk about what school counselors do, because I feel like we are constantly fighting for our jobs, and that a lot of people don't even understand how important it is to have a school counselor. And additionally, we also are fighting for the old guidance counselors who used to sit in the office and tell you weren't going to amount to anything. Like, that's not who we are. And so it's like, when you see when we cringe at guidance, it's because it has that old school connotation, and we want to be so far from it. We're here to serve the whole community and the children, the families. We want what's best for your children and what's best for you.
Thank you. I was going to ask, is there some kind of stigma with the guidance counselor? Okay, all right. Is it just because they were like seen as? Well, explain it. Run it down for me, please. Go ahead, Marian. Can you
So
go ahead.
yeah, so the profession started in the 50s, right? Which is when you were doing a lot of vocational. It was just kind of very much academics. Kind of going towards just kind of career. It didn't have to do with really the whole student, right? Guidance counselors are really focused on kind of one track, and they're also not data driven, right? I like to think of Mia and myself as very data driven counselors. We care about what we're doing, but we care about making a difference with what we're doing, right? We're not just showing up to work and saying, okay, here's another day meeting with another kid. Like, it's okay, is the relationship, the interventions that I'm doing with this student actually doing anything? Because if not, like, let's change that ASAP, because we need to actually be creating a difference in these children's lives, right? And school counselors are again really people working with the community, not just with the student at hand, not just with a handful of students. Like, we are intentionally looking at things that are going to impact as many students and many community members as possible.
Excellent. And final thought, Marian?
Yeah, you know what? I got two, William. It might take more than 30 seconds. I apologize, but I wanted to loop back to, Tyrone had asked a community question about, something that, you're kind of always saying. And I had to think about it. I was like, what am I always saying? I feel like I say so many things all the time. I talk a lot, but something that I always come back to, not only with my students, but with myself and my family members, is grace. Like, we are in a pandemic. It has caused disruption in every single person's life. Like, some people have been affected more than others, but in every single person's life, there has been something that's rocked our world, right? And so being able to give ourselves grace. Maybe you haven't, hit that weight loss challenge. Maybe you haven't been able to read the 20th book in a week, whatever your goal is. If you're not hitting that goal, it's time to give yourself grace, right? That doesn't, again, mean that we can't have high expectations for ourselves, and maybe look at our goals and try to break it down a little bit more to make it more realistic or doable, right? Those SMART goals, as school counselors like to say, but really just being able to give ourselves grace and understand, like, we are at a different place right now than we ever have been, right? And I think the other thing that I just really want to mention is, with school counseling, we can't do the good work we do, one, without our community members, right? Without, our teachers, our administrators, our school social workers, our school psychs, and most importantly, of course, our students, but we also can't do our jobs if we aren't trusted to do them and given the time to do them. You all had asked about kind of what is the recommended caseload, but there's another thing within school counseling, a recommended time with students of direct service. The American School Counselors Association says 80% of your time should be directly helping students, right? And for me, some days I do get that, some days I don't, but I know a lot of school counselors who don't get close to that because they're busy with 504 coordination, SST coordination, doing scheduling, doing lunch and bus duty, doing so many things that, quite frankly, are not things a master's trained, professional needs to be doing, right? Like, you could hire really anyone to do so many of those jobs that are put on a school counselor's plate. So my final message to kind of anyone watching this, especially if you have a role within what a school counselor does, is really just listening to your school counselor, right? Listening to the needs that they express, and look at the data, right? Say if a school counselor has this time with a student to be able to run groups, to be able to do lessons, to be proactive, right? To really meet the needs of our students, that's when you'll see a change. But when we're just putting water over each fire, there's not going to be a change in how things are going, right?
Thank you so much, both of you. And actually, we just got one more question in. Mia, we'll go to you quickly. What type of intervention makes a difference? How do you establish that effective relationship?
I can answer that very quickly. Kids who feel like they have a connection to someone in the school is the most effective intervention there is. Like, when I look at a kid, I know their name and I say, baby, I missed you. Where have you been? Like, that's it. So the more people you have who are available to say, I'm looking at you, I care about you, I love you, I missed you when you were gone. When a kid feels like somebody cares that they're not there, they show up. They want to be there for that person, and then they can take the correction from that person. Hey, look, come here, baby. Remember when you said that was a little off? Like, let's run that back. Let's figure out how to do that. But that when a child has a connection to an adult, that makes all the difference. Whatever else we do is icing on the cake. But when a child feels like an adult in the school cares about them, that is everything.
Thank you, Marian. Anything to add?
I just like to think about the analogy of, that person walking along the beach throwing the starfish in the ocean. Like, I like to think about students sometimes in that vein, right? Even if we're only, helping a couple students at a time, right? Just impacting one person's life, one student's life is all that matters, right? And of course, being data-driven people, we like to affect a lot more, but it's really important to have those connections. And again, collaboration is how we get there.
Well, thank you both so much. Tyrone, any final thought from you or comment from our
Yeah,
family.
we got a lot of comments and stuff that came in, but I definitely think that it's important. Someone mentioned this also, that this dialogue is needed. So I hope we do this again. So I would definitely say that we would definitely love to do that. I think we need to have Mia back to talk specifically to parents, to have a show on what parents can do to help out with students. I've gotten a lot about that. I think that would be very useful and very helpful. I also think we could have Marian back as well to answer some other, counselor questions and stuff, specifically pertaining to high school students. Okay, because we got, a lot just to focus on, because it's a lot that go along with that, right? Like my daughter was here, like I want to ask her questions, and I'm like, we run out of time. So of course, thank you all, finally, thank you all for being here again. Family who's here that's watching, thank you all for all of the comments. Y'all got a lot of likes and thank yous and all of that good stuff being here. So thank you all for that. And Tyrone's house on Thursday, you all, I would love to have either one of y'all come by there and have some conversations with our parents on Thursdays. I kind of lead a chat with parents. It's all parents that are there. That would be great. If y'all have free time, which you probably don't. And the last little point, because I know we got to go. Difference with God, y'all know I'm old. Well, I ain't old, but I'm older, right? So it was guidance counselors when I was in school. And the difference in what I hear from them is it's definitely more personable than back then with guidance counselors. It was like all about just kind of assisting us to, the next grade level or whatever, but actually getting in and dealing with issues that we were going with. They ain't want to hear that stuff back in the day. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't nothing like that. So that's it. Thank you. We got to go. So I got to shut up.
We do. Marian has offered her contact information at Counselor Hoyt, Hoyt on IG, and counselorhoyt@gmail.com. She says, you're welcome to share the community if appropriate, which it is. And thank you for hosting a community, for attending. We really appreciate it. Also, Mia at Counselor Mia B, MIABE. Thank you all both so much. Mia, you don't want to put this on the Google Voice? I'm just joking, man. Thank you all so much.
This was fun.
Good, excellent. We had a blast. Tyrone on Thursday is the host. I am just the guest. Love to have you all and everybody else tune in on Thursday at Tyrone's house. Until then, we'll see you when we see you. Take care of yourselves. Peace, y'all.